So the beginning of AR I, Eitz Chayim, the tree of life, in itself, definitely in the view of the way Torah of it's what is called, or Torah of Exile, is being perceived, one cannot know the Creator. And one can say that the part that AR I is speaking and the Zohar is suggesting that we can know Him, or we can know it. We can know the thought. So this is how it starts, behold or know. Now, know, in biblical terms, it's a copulation. It's a very intimate meeting, or one can say it's the way two even opposite parts can unify in such a way that they create a third presence, or a third being. One can say a new reality. The reality which is which suggests, I'm searching for words, not in English, I'm searching for words. It's a reality that suggests that separation is not completeness, or separation from the Creator is not the intention, is not the will. But there need to be a simile of will from the Creator and the createe to actually to be able to create a meeting point. And the first wish is to meet. When we study about what it means a creator, which is to do with Keter, which is to do with Ein Sof, which is blessed be him, meaning that there is a blessing in and a blessing has to do with additional light on top of what there is in terms of just existence, or what is enough for the state that we're in. So this is the meaning of blessing. So since I'm opening parenthesis, since I was asked about Saturday, in Saturday there is actually a meeting point of two opposition, which is to do with blessing and sanctifying. Sanctifying is putting apart something, and blessing is connecting. It's to do with dedication to something, to the exclusion of everything else. This is actually to sanctify, and blessing is the opposite. Is actually including everything. So on Shabbat, which is one can say the painting or the picture of the thought of creation, pre-creational state, okay, is to do with actually joining those two, the blessing and the sanctification. So we start with no. Our duty is to serve knowing all the processes and the thoughts and the will that creation is expressing. So it is starting with actually demolishing one of one can say first rule of mysticism, which is the ineffable. it is everything that we can speak about. Because we can see that as we start with surrender in the name of, or by its name, has to do in Hebrew, Shmo, his name, is to do with will. It's equalizing will. Okay? This is part of the way Kabbalists play with a numerical value of a word in order to find another word that actually can explain, because the words for themselves are not self-explanatory. You can go to the root, but what you need is actually the context. The context is the fabric of weaving it to meaning. So knowing is is a communion, of opposites that our our duty in it, if we take it upon ourselves, or our commitment, is to equalize ourselves to the will of the Creator. And the will of the Creator, at least one of the qualities, is bestowal. So we need to find in our opposite nature, which is the will to receive, a way to use it, to use whatever it is going to receive, how we are going to use it. So we can use it to bestow. We cannot bestow from ourselves because we don't have anything to bestow. But if we accept and receive by this condition, and this condition is called intention or the screen. This actually allows us to start to form, one can say, a way, a vessel that can find itself in simili to the quality of bestowal of the Creator. So it's all inclusive. In knowing that, in communion with that, we are able actually to start to know it, because in its thought, the Creator is inclusive, or we are included in his thought. This is why we can know it. We can commune with it. We can connect to it. So the all-inclusive part is the description that before the emanation, before the first act of creation, pre-creation, that before the emanation were emanated and the creature created, the supreme expanding simple light had filled all there is. All there is a negation to its Ein Sof. It's a reality which is as well more in a state, one can say, of potentiality, or of something that is being, it's in a state of becoming. Okay? So before that, there was no vacant place in respect to the light being vacant from atmosphere and place, but always filled with the infinite expanding light. Therefore, we know that inside the potentiality, we cannot actually discern anything. There's not up or head or middle or the lower part. What it suggests actually that it is a state like a fetus, that it is being surrounded and swallowed by the will, by the intention, by the thought of the Creator, and therefore it has no discernment, therefore it has no names, meaning no understanding of purpose or the will of the Creator. So how actually something started the movement or the pulse that is to do with the word of creation. So the word of creation is outside of the Creator. I mean, all creation is to do with being outside of the Creator, still maintaining that it is the produce of the thought of creation, but it's being, one can say, pushed away from the state of being included or inclusive as something which is not discerned for itself. So now we can start to move into the what it actually produces as a next step. And that would be when his expanding will rose to create the world. So actually what we are entering in here is how the state that we spoke about it, of 4 aspects of direct light, which is as well, one can say, an aftermath name, meaning only from being in creation we can discern how it was before, when it was gathered to itself and there was no space for anything else. So one can say that creation, the first act of creation, is the deepest bestowal, or the deepest giving of the Creator, meaning it's giving space, it's evacuating oneself from space in order to give that space to something other than itself. So in the deepest sense of surrender, we need to be in simili to that. We need to evacuate ourselves in order to allow our space, which is to do with our thought, with our feeling, with our being, to evacuate to something other than ourselves in all its expressions, but mainly to evacuate ourselves in order to allow the presence of the Creator to return to the evacuated space. So, how it rose, what it means to rose, it means this sentence, it rose, yeah, when his expanding will rose. So we need to look at 4 aspects of light, or direct light, or at least now when we are speaking about pre-creation, we cannot speak about direct light. It's a name that is coming after the fact of creation. So we need to look at one of the aspects in which the expanding of Keter, the expanding of the thought of creation, can actually cause some sort of process in it, which is outside of its will, and what it will raise in it is the wish to express will. And a will that will match and will allow the will of the Creator to actually extend without being opposite and separate from Him. So the only candidate for the ability is what will be the vessel of the will in the future, the vessel of the will to receive, and that we call Malchut. So we can see that all four aspects extending themselves. I need to erase the board and start again. Okay. רוצים להסתיר? לא חשוב. Okay. So we know that the four aspects are really we can say the building bricks of all creation. Okay. We are calling them by the name that they will express later: sfirot, worlds, faces, all the processes themselves, the lights. So in a way we can sort of draw to ourselves, okay, which is always dangerous, but let's say with the understanding that we're not going to sculpt it or fix it, okay, just for our ability to try and understand it. So the state of it, this is Malchut, in which everyone or everything, all the aspects of the light, including Keter, Chokhmah, Binah, and Zeranpin, is extending themselves into. So this is Binah, and this is Zeranpin. Yeah, Zeranpin has two way of action, because he's getting the extension of Binah into himself, meaning Chasadim, or grace, the light of grace, but as well, because he's receiving the light of grace, Chokhmah can extend itself. So all of this is extending themselves to Malchut. But what actually is interesting for us, for what rose, is the will. So first, we need to understand that the Creator could start the creation with knowing. And we are saying that everything is known, but permission is granted. So everything is known, is clear to us if we think about the sort of creation that is encompassing all, in which it is true. Whether we like it or not, the Creator will fulfill its thought, its intention towards the creation, and definitely towards the created. So what in it is permission granted, yet permission is granted? The permission granted involves or entails will. That the will to bestow actually entails free choice. A will that will be able to choose of the creator, that will be able to choose the Creator as its mate, as its definition, one can say, the presence on which it will write its choice or its identity. So actually it is saying in a very blunt way that we have no identity unless we are in any kind of adhesion or equalizing form with the Creator. So knowing the Creator is actually the very deep meaning of knowing ourselves or knowing oneself. It's a will that actually, when Keter, the thought of creation, is extending itself to Malchut, which is the future vessel of reception. Now it is called Manhood of Ein Sof. If you want, okay. So instead of me, I'm writing. Okay, so I can speak freely. Okay. So Manhood of Ein Sof, it's a vessel that actually creates no end, or no ending, or no limitation on the will of the Creator to extend or to to bestow its light. It's the content of what he wishes to give to his createe, and all the processes and and ways that they will be able to receive without separating themselves or becoming in opposition or opposites in themselves. But what is actually important from all other aspects that are being extended to Malchut is the will. So will suggests that there is a being, there is a self, as someone wants. And what Malchut Ein Sof is discovering, that actually there is no expression of self in her. That is what rose, the need to define oneself, to define the vessel, to define the attitude and the relationship towards the Creator. And that is the birthplace of shame. The birthplace of shame is the understanding that we have no identity, that we actually chose to enslave ourselves to pleasure in all its, it doesn't matter if it's sex, food, or a concert, or what we call religious life. It's on the same line. There's no, it's an enslavement of unexpressed, unformed self. So the shame that is actually arising in Malchut is that in her reception, endless reception, she is actually not able to express anything from herself to the giver. And that is the Big Bang. This is what actually starts creation. The will that the Creator planted in Malchut, that created actually this shame, and in Hebrew shame is composed as the root of it is to go back, to return to that will that can bestow or can actually express as Keter or as Ein Sof, Baruch Hu, is expressing his, one can say, feeling and will towards the createe, the epitome of the createe, which is Malchut, need to find a way that not to be ashamed of being only receiving without being able to express anything of her stature or of herself. It's causing shame because it's not using, it's discovering or revealing that the most important quality of being able to choose or to use the permission, that there is a permission, that there is a liberty of actually giving back, expressing something that has value in it, is actually why we need, or why all this system of creation was actually pushed out of the womb of this Ein Sof. So it is that sense or that discovery. How it is, this is the only, one can say, this is the only drawing that Ari did, but we actually what we are getting from the extension of the will to Malchut. Now we're getting a completely different ecology or state of affairs. The state is that first there is this point, black point, which was this, that the vessel that contained all is becoming a black spot or black point. From now on, every time that we will meet the black point, actually suggests that we understand that we do not have anything of ourselves. That everything that we have been we received from higher, from other people. It doesn't matter what is the expression that we received it from. But black point means that we know that we don't have anything of ourselves yet. It's an acknowledgement. It's consciousness. And this consciousness is called symptom 1. Yeah. Or shattering 1. And what it creates, that all those expressions of expanding light are actually now surrounding her. So if there is 4 aspects around it, this is what we are getting. We are getting that this point, it's already an expression of consciousness that will actually, from the sense of deep shame, meaning that it has no expression, it's searching for an expression. So it's like someone is saying, I want, or a child is saying, I want to do it by myself. Okay? Don't help me. So everything is pushed aside, and then you stand with your inability to do anything. Yeah? It's like really a baby saying, don't help me, don't feed me. I will get my sustenance by myself. And if it actually pushes all help, and it means something even deeper, that the permission to actually supersede the power of the light or the power of the will of the creator to extend itself to the creative, this is the permission that was given to the creative to overcome, to overpower the will of the creator to extend itself, in order, this is the deep generosity. So the creator could define itself or grow the self that will choose, that will be able to choose actually to to define its identity. Now we'll have to find how to define. So at the moment, it actually pushes everything away from it. What it is left with is a new consciousness that was born of the shame, which was never before, and that's the desire or the longing for the light. When it filled it, and it was all in it, there was no, one can say, place or space for maybe any feeling, but of pleasure. But to actually desire the light is a produce of actually pushing away or being able to push away all the light and to see that I'm a black point that has nothing of itself, and this is the first definition of self. Wishing to create some sort of gesture towards the creator or towards the Keter, finding on a way that something new has been born in it, which is the desire for the light, the longing, because it's like we're saying, if you don't go away, I cannot miss you. Okay, so this is the two actually powers that are now struggling within Malchut. The shame, not wishing to actually return to the same state, but to be in a state that has some return sentiment, return feeling, or return it's a state of being that grants you or grows in you the ability to be part of, a partner of this sort of creation. So what one sees that there's no feeling. I actually cannot feel the creator, cannot express any feeling towards him. And yet, with it, the power of actually desiring and longing. So it's actually two forces that move in different directions. The longing for the light is drawing the light, or is the power to draw light into oneself. And shame is pushing the light away, so at least I can use this light in order to express the connection or any kind of gesture or attitude towards the creator. So this is the state we are in. And this is only with a sentence, as it is expressed here, when his expanding will rose to create the world. So the expanding will is into Malchut, the sense of Keter in Malchut. Yeah. And as it rose in her, because she's one can say that Malchut now becomes a vessel of, she is the vessel of resonance. Yeah. The resonance of the will of the creator can happen only in Malchut, because this is what she is. She is a box of resonance. So without that, no music of no spheres can be played. Okay. So now we are still, there is no condition for creation. So we need to take those two forces of shame and longing and desire for the light, or one can say it's a consciousness of the missing light. And they are actually now battling to find a meeting point or joint purpose that can actually allow it to live together or allow it to work together. So I know that I want to define, or Malchut wants to define herself as with gratitude, with any kind of attitude or feeling towards the Creator. And she discovers as well the desire for light, now that the light are not in her. So how those two forces can create a state in which actually she can get the light and not lose actually the return attitude or the return sentiment towards the Creator. So it means now we're going to meet for the first time the formation of the base of what it will be called later the third line, but it's a condition. This intention, the tension within, okay, within Malchut, is creating a totally new set of affairs, which we call creation. So what actually is being created is the ability to actually set itself here. Those two forces. Now, this is the desire for the light. Which is called the thickness. Yeah? The thickness of the screen. Meaning its power to pull and to draw light. The strongest desire for the light. The naked, one can say, force of desire for the light. For any amount of light. But this is Malchut of infinity. So it's, one can say, it's the desire in its full measurement. But on top of the desire that she discovered as a secondary, actually, produce of shame, she will put a condition of shame on top of it, or the condition of being able to repel light. So all this together, the power to repel and the power to draw, which is opposites, are creating a screen. Meaning it's a condition saying, I wish to draw light into myself, but I will not draw light into myself unless I will know that it caused pleasure in you and it is your will. And as long as I can maintain this intention to cause in you the pleasure of bestowal, I'm willing to receive. Or we can call it in a different way. I will draw light only to have the power to have any kind of a gesture or an appeal or relation to you. And that starts creation. So now we can understand why this will that rose starts to create the world. The world, in Hebrew, it starts to create actually concealment over the first light, that in this concealment, like in the black point of not having something, will be the possible or the permission to elevate into drawing into oneself that which was concealed. Meaning that every world is a different state of intention. What, or I'll define it in the opposite way. The state of the intensity of the screen, the intensity of the drawing or the desire and the shame, is the name of the world that is being created. Because name is the purpose of the world that will be created. Okay? So this is why we can see that when he's expanding will rose, meaning expanding will rose, it rose into a screen, and the screen is actually creating a degree, or it's creating degrees of, one can say, of the way we are able to remember, to define ourselves in relation to the Creator. So adhesion at all is being formed only by intention or by the screen. So this is why the screen that is the result of what rose is concealment and one can say degradation of the light up to the final point, which we are out of the world, which is called this world. This world is not part of the spiritual world. It is beginning to be, or it is included only when we are saying that the point in the heart has been awakened. What it means, the point in the heart? We just define what is the meaning of the point. The point is saying that I don't feel, I'm not able to feel the Creator because I'm full of myself or my ideas about the Creator. I don't know Him. So in a way, the awakening of this point sort of pulls us into the spiritual world. Now we can choose to fall away from it, or to allow the screen, the possible screens, to develop themselves, and then we start the ascent to sort of unlock all the concealment that has been created through the screens. So this is only for this sentence. Okay. So actually everything that happens in Malchut. Later we'll see that she needed a cooperation with Bina, but basically the whole system of creation is in order to, one can say, to train or form such a Malchut that she can be Ein Sof, but with a self-definition and self-presence of the way she actually defined her relationship or relation to the Creator.